Good evening, and welcome to a special edition of StarCast from Planet Waves. Today, I just have a comment to accompany my article. The students were right, after all. It's going out with the February 6th edition of Planet Waves. I don't usually do podcasts associated with my articles, but I needed to make a few comments and point a few things out about the sheer outrage of what you're going to read in the article that accompanies this little comment, which is that, well, okay, so now for 18 months we've been watching this absolutely horrifying situation unfold in Gaza, in Palestine, and also in the West Bank, where they were not only bombing but demolishing entire neighborhoods. And like the grief of this, the world watching this festering wound, and the agony of these people being made to flee over and over again from what little they have, as easily tens of thousands of civilians were murdered over the course of a year and a half. And then, if you recall, Netanyahu was charged with war crimes by the International Criminal Court, the ICC, which is a kind of a subsection of the United Nations, largely a symbolic gesture. Nobody can go and arrest him. I guess technically he can be arrested if he enters a country that has a treaty making membership in the ICC. And then one day, right around when Trump is inaugurated, the whole thing stops. They just say, okay, ceasefire. And remember all the things that came along with this, the cell phone, the cell phone tablet bombs from September, about a year in. And what I can tell you is that I am not one who usually hesitates to take up a story. I mean, there have been a couple of issues that I feel are a little bit too hot to handle, but here we have and had. Well, we still have it, a situation that really is a very straightforward thing to have an opinion on. It's not right to bomb civilians. It doesn't matter why. And there were all kinds of observers who saw this October 7th attack as a false flag, who thought that it was somewhere between improbable and impossible, that Israel did not know that this was coming. And then immediately they just start bombing this tiny little place. I mean, if you have never seen on a map, go to Google Maps and look up the Gaza Strip. The thing is like the size of a neighborhood in most cities. Well, it's a little bit bigger. There's 2 million people packed in there. And the entire thing is being bombed to rubble. And then in the spring of 2024, the campuses in the United States erupt for the first time really since spring of 1970. That one was prompted by Nixon admitting that he was bombing Laos and Cambodia, as an expansion of the Vietnam War. Kent State was the one result of that. Students were shot in several different places. But this, what we saw in the spring of 24, in as much as I am qualified as a historian of student activism, I'm not that bad. Nothing like this in 54 years. Students getting arrested, the resounding charge of anti-Semitism. And it was not until the students took action that I felt like I could stick my neck out a little bit more, because I had an angle besides saying, like, this is completely wrong. I am Quaker. This is not a political issue. This is a religious issue for me. I don't care what the politics are. Who would Jesus bomb? Jesus wouldn't bomb anybody. And frankly, who would Moses bomb? Well, Moses wouldn't bomb anybody either. And this has got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. This has got to do with the conduct of the state of Israel, which has nothing to do with Judaism. That is a complete hoax. The founders of the Israeli state, none of them were Orthodox. When you look at that photo of the founding of the Israeli state in 1948, there's a famous photo of everyone who was there in the room. There's not one person with their head covered. They're all wearing normal street clothes. And now we're told, if you object to massacring Palestinians, you're anti-Semitic. One person called me a Holocaust denier, which is she knows that somebody I've known for 25 years, who knows I have been to Buchenwald and Auschwitz and documented for myself the things that happened there as best I could do so half a century later. And then one day they just declare a ceasefire, and I'm staring at the front page of the New York Times, which really is like a kind of a journalistic freak show. I'm staring at the thing cross-eyed, thinking, okay, all of that for what? They've reduced this entire territory, technically an authority, the Palestinian Authority, to rubble and killed and maimed. It has to be 100,000 people. Dislocated, nearly everyone, bombed nearly every house to dust. For what exactly? Really, for retaliation for somebody, Iran or somebody, launching a few rockets at Israel? I don't think anybody, maybe a couple of people were killed in this October 7th attack, but this totally disproportionate response. And for me, the most frightening thing was basically the world just sitting there staring at this thing, like they didn't know what it was, like they'd never heard of anything like this, and just because somebody plays the victim card, we were the victims of the Holocaust, between 1933 and 1945. Therefore, we can murder anybody we want. I have a hard time accepting that as anything other than psychosis. And I have said that as someone who was Jewish adjacent in my entire life, and even Jewish identified, I felt betrayed by the Jewish people who were supporting this. Forget about Netanyahu. Forget about his bullshit cabinet. The Jewish people supporting this and telling me that I had no right to an opinion. And if I said, I thought we said, what didn't we say never again? Mr. Zornberg, my Holocaust studies teacher, who approved of this massacre? My Holocaust studies teacher. Now, he may turn out to be a self-righteous fuck. I have immense respect for Mr. Zornberg. I think of him, always will, as Mr. Zornberg. He was faculty advisor. He recruited me into journalism personally, recruited me to be on the staff of Gadfly, the social science journal of John Dewey High School. And I've stayed in touch with him over the years on Facebook. And I asked him what he thought. And he said, can you think of a better way to do this? Can you think of anything better to do? This is obviously necessary, basically, was his argument. My father calling for the murder of Palestinian children because they've been raised to hate Jews? Maybe they've got a good reason. Well, the good reason now is that their country's been pulverized. And the punchline of this sick thing is that Trump on Tuesday comes out and says, now we're going to build a Riviera-like resort in Gaza. It's too dangerous to go there. All the buildings are dangerous. It's very precarious. Oopsie daisy. How did that happen? I don't know. But we've got to fix it. We're going to fix it by removing all the rubble. The United States is going to own Gaza. That was his proposal. Bibi Netanyahu standing right there. We're going to own Gaza, and we're going to build resorts, golf courses. What, the Trump International Gaza? Apparently, his son-in-law was talking about this a year ago. And I know these people are nut jobs. They wouldn't be where they were if they didn't have the most massive ego you could fit on the planet, and be in some way a psychopath. You can't get that much power without having something wrong with you. I'm sorry to say that. I've known many politicians. I have not been close to like U.S. senators or presidents, and I think the people locally have a lot better chance of being a human being and a member of their community. By the time you're president, by the time you're prime minister, there can't be anything left of you. You've sold everything out, and now he proves this by calling for, with Netanyahu there, and the world press focused, and it's the first meeting of Netanyahu and Trump during the Trump 2 presidency, and after this whole massacre has been called off, and he says they're going to build resorts. A Riviera. That is not a measure of his insanity. That is a measure of the insanity of society. That is a measure of the state of the world. That he thinks he can just say that? Well, guess what? He can, and he did. And I would say there's a very good chance they're going to do it. Fuck the United Nations. Who cares? It's some dumbass treaty from 1946 or something. Why do they need to worry about that? The United States pays for most of the United Nations. So my article builds to the topic of how this is a digital effect. This kind of insanity is induced by digital conditions. It is about being disembodied. No one can think that this is okay. No one cannot. If you are not angry about this, you ain't in your body, or you drank the Zionist Kool-Aid and you think that anything that Israel does is right, no matter who they kill is right. Well, I put my hands in the ash pits of Auschwitz. I went to the mass graves at Buchenwald. I went into a basement where 5,000 people were strangled. It was the strangulation basement. It was hand-to-hand murder. I roamed around that camp. It was a Monday, so it was closed, but the gates are left open traditionally on the concentration camps in Israel. So my girlfriend Maria and we showed up on a Monday. It was a bit dreary, and we found, like all museums in Europe are closed on Monday. Well, this one was closed, but we had the place to ourselves, basically. And we roamed around, and we got the feeling for it, and it was fucking freaky. And I understood, never again. And we were both in a state of complete shock. We were able to get some kind of an Airbnb because she went in because she looked like Heidi with little blonde braids and spoke German like a kitten, so she was able to get us a room. I don't think we slept for a minute that night. I lit a candle in the window and I read to her from Alice Bailey, Esoteric Astrology, for hours. That's how shocked we were. And now the Israelis turn around and commit genocide right before the eyes of the world? And the students are arrested as if by the IDF, the SUNY Campus Police, the Ulster County Sheriff's Department, New York State Police, and the New Paltz Town Police marching across the campus with riot sticks, helicopters, drones, and dogs? Like the IDF brutally arresting 130 students for protesting in favor of the Palestinians, and now we find out that this was about building a new Riviera? Building resort hotels and villas? I mean, you gotta be kidding me. But they're not kidding. Welcome to the digital world, where your most precious asset is your humanity. Please, do not give it up. All right. I'll be back on the other page with a discussion of Saturn conjunct Nessus. We have finally arrived at the Saturn-Nessus conjunction. Takes place at 9:17 p.m. on Friday. Signing off from Kingston at 2:28 p.m. ET. Lots of love, and bye for now.